Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone that is listening to this. My name is Craig Moritz. I am the Assistant Director of Sales and Exhibits for SPE. And I really want to thank you for taking the time and joining us and listening to our third webinar in the SPE Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. If this is your first time or your third time in joining us for the webinar, we hope you get some valuable nuggets to take away today. We want you to take anything that you learn, these nuggets, and put them to use in your company, with your company right away. We've had a great response to the last two webinars, and you're going to want to hold on tight as he just mentioned, because there is a lot of great information that Jefferson's going to share today. Our presenter today is Jefferson Davis, President of Competitive Edge. As you will see, he is a very high-energy, innovative thinker and implementer of trade show technology and best practices. Since I've known him, for the years that I've known him, he's always devising new solutions to issues and has worked to help hundreds, if not thousands, of companies to be the best that they can be in their trade show programs. You know, in today's times in our industry, SPE, my sales team, and all of the SPE management is very grateful for our clients and you on this webinar who continue to support our SPE events. All the exhibitors need to be successful now more than ever with their trade show investment, and that's why SPE has invested in Jefferson's expertise so that our clients can and will become more sophisticated and effective with their trade shows in order to see more results, which are going to translate into revenue, which in turn is going to produce wild ROI on your investment in your trade show program. So far in our first two webinars, Jefferson has talked about pre-show planning and then designing an effective exhibit. Today we're going to examine high-impact pre- and at-show marketing. We have to let people know we're exhibiting at a show. We have to tell them we want them to visit our booth, and we have to give them a reason to visit us, and I think we're going to learn a lot about that today. So with that, I'd like to welcome Jefferson Davis.
All right. Thank you, Craig. And again, thanks to everybody who has logged on both live and those of you that are joining us for the replay. You know, over the years, like all of you, I've been involved in the execution of a lot of shows, and I always felt like the only time I really heard from the show organizer was when they want to check and when they send me that big service kit telling me all that stuff I have to do but didn't really want to do. And so it's really cool to be working with a great organization like SPE that cares enough about us, you know, as exhibitors, to not just rent us real estate, but show us how to make it profitable. And that's what the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center is about, between the webinars, between the downloadable articles, and with your ability at any time to go there and submit questions through the Ask the Trade Show experts and get expert feedback to help you get the most from the time and money you're investing in shows. So if you've joined us for the first two webinars, you know the first webinar was high impact pre-show planning, and we walked through a very practical process of how to bring exhibiting by objectives into your program. We talked about how few companies actually have action plans. Most have reasons, but very few have goals. Even fewer go the farther step of creating written plans, executing, and measuring. If you didn't view that webinar, I strongly encourage you to view it. It's a great view with your entire planning team also, because it'll help you get out of the logistics trap where you're just spending the majority of your time on the space, the booth, the products, people, in, up, down, and out. The second webinar was about designing an effective exhibit experience, and it's a photographic journey along with great principles of what really makes an exhibit become a worthy destination. And so you got to make sure that you're really addressing those first two. And so today's webinar is going to build upon that. We're building these webinars in a very structured manner. This is about promoting to build your awareness and drive qualified traffic to your stand or your booth. So we're going to take you into a practical process on pre and at show marketing. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started here, okay? So I think we're all exhibiting, and I think we're all here today at the end of the game for one big reason. We want to grow our businesses. We want to drive revenue. We want to get more customers. Peter Drucker, one of the most famous management consultants in America, was quoted as saying, there's really only two things that drive revenue for a company. Number one is marketing. Number two is innovation. He said everything else is an expense. So even in down market cycles, a lot of companies start cutting back on their marketing budgets and cutting back on their innovation. And these are actually the best times, believe it or not. There's been so many studies done about keeping, companies who keep their marketing equal or increase it during down market cycles experience business growth 3 to 5 times faster than those who cut their budget. And innovation is really, just continually improving, not just your products and your services, but improving your marketing. So that's what we want to talk about today. So speaking of marketing, if you really think about how do I create successful marketing, another great business philosopher, Jim Rohn, said it so eloquently that it's really hard to improve upon. Jim said that you got to have something good to say. If you just go out there and go quality products, competitive prices, and great service, which is what everybody's saying, right? It's a platitude. And so we got to get a lot more thoughtful about what we're saying in our marketing. And then we have to say it well. We have to articulate it in a way that cuts through the noise, and grabs the attention of your audience, and pulls them into your message. Then we have to say it often. Once is never enough. I've read different studies that say it takes on average 3 to 6 direct impressions for somebody to process and notice a message, and that only 1 out of 3 attempts to deliver the message even get through. So we got to have something good to say. We got to say it well. We got to say it often. And I'm going to add another piece to Jim's quote here to build upon it. Say it through multiple media, specifically when you're marketing your trade show participation. So I want you to take a look at the screen here on an integrated marketing strategy. And I would like you to quickly put a check mark by how many of these media you now use to promote your company's participation in trade shows. Take a moment and do that, and I'm going to bring a quick poll up to the screen. This image is also in your workbook, so hopefully you've printed that out and have your pen and calculator, and you should be able to see it there. So here we go. I'm going to launch the poll. How many media do you use to market your company's participation in trade shows? The poll is live now. None? 1, 2, 3. How many? Fastest fingers. Go ahead, press the radio dial button that applies for you, and I will share the results in a moment. We're at 61%. Those of you that haven't polled yet, be sure to press your button. I'm looking for upward of 80% participation, and I'll give you just a moment, and I will share the poll right now. Okay, so good news here. Congratulations to everybody on here. Nobody in here is not using any pre-show marketing media. That's good. You'd be amazed at how many webinars I do where 20, 30% of exhibitors are not really using any media. 40% of you are in that 1 to 3 range. 27% of you are in that 4 to 6 range. And a third of you are in a 7+ range. So the question I think that this raises is how many media should we use as an exhibitor, right? Here's my thought. As many as your budget, your bandwidth in terms of time, and your skill set, your knowledge, allows you to apply. The more, the merrier, right? The more, the better. You almost want to be in a position of omnipresence where everywhere they look, there you are. And I'll explain more about that as we move through our content here today. So thanks for your participation on that poll. Let's keep moving on forward. Okay, so when you think about trade shows, right, and you think about the investment of financial and human capital, and you think about what's really going on here, the true nature of trade shows. What are trade shows really about? I think they're about face and they're about next. They're about putting your company identity, your products, your services, your staff face to face with enough of the right people, and it's about what happens after that. Most of you on this webinar and in this industry are not there selling products off the show floor. Some of you may be, but most of you aren't, right? So for you, it's really about meeting a person and learning about them, them learning about you, the two of you agreeing something happens next. Something happens next, and getting that visitor to commit to what that next is. So as much as you want your pre-marketing to also build brand awareness and deliver more impressions out in the market, what you really want it to do is drive enough of the right people to the event and to your booth, your stand. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, one of the reasons why this pre-marketing has become so much more important than it's ever been is because attendee behaviors, trade show attendee behaviors over the last several years have changed. And a lot of exhibitors are not aware of these changes, and they haven't adapted or updated their program to align with these changes. So number one, with all the demands in business and costs and everything else, they tend to be registering a little closer to the show than in years past. Number two, the total number of days they spend at the event is being reduced, not because they don't value shows, but because like you, me, and everyone else, they're under more time pressure. Their workloads have increased. And so they don't have time to empty out the company, send everybody to the show, and hang out for 4 and 5 days. But they still value shows as much as ever. They're just being forced to spend fewer number of days at the physical event. They're looking for content, and they're looking for takeaway, useful information. They want ideas, innovations, practices. They want to, because when they come back from the show, they have a boss that's asking them, hey, you were gone for 2-3 days here. What did you get? What did you learn? What do you know? So they're under pressure. And they look to you, the exhibitors, right, to make that exhibit experience that we talked about in the last one, deliver relevant, useful, important content for them. Here's a big one. If you don't catch any of these other ones, catch these next 3. 3 out of 4 attendees arrive with an agenda. They got a game plan. They know what sessions they're going to go to. They know what social events they're going to attend. They know where their blocks of time in the exhibit hall are going to be. On average, they'll stop and cross the carpet line, according to North American Center for Exhibition Industry Research. They'll stop and cross the carpet line of about 26 to 31 booths on average. Do not forget that number. That's important. And next, half of those stops are pre-planned. So when you think about why promoting your participation is so important, what you don't want to do today is exhibit by hope. Rent space, show up, and hope the right attendees find you. And in spite of all these facts that are going on, in spite of all these, less than 20% of exhibitors are really executing a well-conceived pre- and at-show marketing campaign. So you automatically put yourself in the top 20% in every show you do by doing the things we're talking about in today's webinar here. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a process that has been 25 years in the making. This is the actual process that I apply with my direct exhibiting clients. And I tell you, many of my greatest turnarounds, trade show turnarounds, have been because finally we were able to get enough of the right people to our booth. So this process has 8 specific steps. And what I'm going to do is walk you through these 8 steps at a very high level. What I want you to do is get together with your marketing and your sales team over the coming weeks and sit down and have a meeting and work through these 8 steps, because if you will, okay, you will end up in the mind, on the agenda of enough of the right people. And that's how you win the game of exhibiting, really. We said it's about face, we said it's about next. That's how you win the game. So let's get after this. Step number 1, in your workbook, take a look. I want you to clarify your top 3 reasons or goals for exhibiting. Why are you exhibiting? What are you trying to accomplish? And I want you to identify those, because different media will support different goals. And we'll talk about that as we work through this webinar. But your first action item is get crystal clear. And we did a deep dive in this on webinar 1 about your exhibiting goals. Why are you exhibiting? So is it about visibility, awareness? Is it about customer relationship management and cross-selling and upselling? Is it about differentiating your company or your products from the competition? Is it about lead generation? What? Why are you exhibiting? So start there, step number 1. Then we move to step number 2. Here's the big idea, okay? Not everybody attending the show is your ideal visitor. What you have to define is who are the right people for you, and what are you going to do between now and showtime so you're in their mind and on their agenda. Now, SPE captures information about attendees through the registration process. And that's a starting point for you to start to build your visitor profile. So company classification will tell you what type of company it is. Job classification will tell you the job function or the title of what they do. The primary technical discipline will give you an idea of what their area of specialization is. Years of experience may be important to you. This young professional that are 35 years, that may be important to you in terms of slanting your content and your messaging to the millennials. The physical location of the company, and these are all things that are important. And you will have other things that will define your ideal visitor profile. Maybe you'll be looking at the relationship with your company, meaning customers, prospects that are in the pipeline, companies you have no engagement with. Maybe you'll be looking at annual revenue, or the number of employees, or the number of physical properties or rigs or fields they have. However you define that. But what I'm asking you here in step number 2 is to realize that not everybody attends as your ideal visitor, and define who is, and then target everything that you do as we work through this to this person, this profile. Okay, that way you're not wasting resources. Every single dollar and every hour is touching the right people. Now, there's another thing that I want to take you inside. Oftentimes I hear in this industry, in the energy and the oil and gas sector, where we've got salespeople who are not very excited about the trade shows, and they kind of see them as an interruption. We're going to take them out of their territory, drop them into this cold, hard space, make them talk to a bunch of people that they don't want to talk to. And so somehow we've got to get our sales and our dealers and our distributors engaged here. So here's a program that we use with clients that has made a major difference. I call it the CPS triangle. And we start with the base of the triangle. And this is your customers. You're already or have done business with them. So you want to reach out to them for 4 different outcomes. Relationship management. Do you know that I just read a study that 61% of the people that visit a booth at a trade show say they have not had an in-person visit with that company in the last 12 months. Relationship management. When markets get tighter too, you got to really circle the wagons around your existing customers. So making sure that you never go into a key show without reaching out and touching them. Relationship management. Probing for additional opportunity within the account. Keeping your ears to the ground for change. Who's coming, who's going, mergers, acquisitions, layoffs, downsizing. It's amazing what people will tell you when you get them out of their field or their rig or their operation. Advocacy, pairing champion customers with prospects who are farther down the sales cycle as a way to accelerate. So we want to start with our existing customers. And then, if you want to get quick return on investment, here's the group to put into the program. Prospects. You're already in dialogue with them. You're in the sales cycle. You have one objective. How can you use the energy and the content and the exhibit and the experience to move them one step closer? Of the companies I've worked with, we've been able combined to pull, at this point, about $800 million of revenue from shows. And a lot of that comes from smartly using the trade show opportunity to move prospects closer to the deal, and in some cases close the deal, right? And the third group is, we're going to call them suspects. I would also call a suspect your profile match. Remember that profile you just created? You have no meaningful dialogue with them, so you're going to use the exhibit opportunity here to get a foot in the door, get a meeting of the minds, get a next step. So here's how you bring traction to this idea. Number one, about 8 to 10 weeks before each show, engage your sales management and ask everybody who's going to be going to the show to build a list with X number of customer, prospect, suspects. Go down the list, look at the different objectives we talked about, and set a specific objective or an outcome for each name. Then have your team reach out and touch them at least 3 times before the show. What they're trying to get here is either a confirmed appointment or a verbal commitment. And if you really want to prime the pump and get everybody dialed in and excited about this, put a contest in place. The rep or dealer or distributor that gets the highest percentage of their CPS list to the show and to our booth, put a contest in play. And this will help you fill your booth with the right people. It will get your salespeople re-engaged about the trade show opportunity. They'll be excited to come, and you will have an incredible show. So if you're not using the CPS program, this is the time to start, okay? Now, what you got to do then also in step 2 is once you've identified, okay, my ideal visitor looks like this, then you got to start building lists, okay? And your best trade show list sources, when they're available, are the pre-registered attendee list. If a previous or a post-show attendee list is available, another great list source. Your company database, customer, prospect, suspects. Previous visitors, you've done other shows and you have people that visited your booth, put them on the list. They may very well be coming to this show. Anybody who's inquired about your company product services over the last 3, 6, 9 months. Distribution channel partner list. If you work through dealers, distributors, working with them. Trade publication readership lists, another great resource. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do in step 2 here is to start internally, and what lists do you already have, and then look externally. And pre-registered attendee lists are available at ATCE and OTC, so make sure that you take a look at those. And by the way, according to the last study I read, only 6% of exhibitors acquire and use pre-registered attendee lists. 94% don't. That would be reason enough for me to be joining the 6%, right? So step 2, you got to build your lists, okay? Now, step 3. Remember we said trade shows are about face, you know, and we have a limited or a finite amount of capacity for face-to-face interaction. What we need to do is calculate what that capacity is. So I'm going to give you a formula to do that right now. And actually, if you're exhibiting at ATCE coming up, do it for that. If you've got another show on your calendar, do it for that. Do this for every single show you do from this day forward. So you start with the number of hours in the show. Okay? My example, 21 hours. Next question, listen carefully. How many people are going to be scheduled in your booth for the purpose of talking to attendees and visitors? What is your staffing, your full-time staffing equivalent? How many people? Use that average number. In this example, I've got 2. Okay, that would be a 10 by 10 booth. Okay, multiply the 2, and you have your total staff hours. That is your capacity for face-to-face interaction in your booth. It's also what you're really buying here. Now, listen carefully. I want you to pick a number between 3 to 5. We're going to set a target number of interactions per hour per staffer. 3, conservative. 4, moderate. 5, maybe aggressive. Pick one of those numbers, 3, 4, or 5. Calculate the two together, and you have what I believe to be the single most important number that you'll ever focus on for trade shows, your capacity for interaction. In this example, if I was on the conservative end, I have the capacity for 126 face-to-face, one-to-one interactions in my booth. If I'm playing this aggressive, I have the capacity for 210 face-to-face, one-to-one. So here's the big question. Who are the best 126 or 210 people that if we could get FaceTime with at the show would make the whole show worthwhile? What I want to do is get in their mind, on their agenda before they get to the show. Now, speaking of your list count, people often ask me, how large should my pre-show target lists be? Off of this formula, 3 to 5. So I would be looking for 375 to 630 names deep. Now, if I'm trying to really build my brand awareness, increase my visibility, I'm going to make the list as large as I can make it. But as a starting point, go to 3 to 5. Okay? That's exhibit interaction capacity. And now your life gets pretty easy, doesn't it? Because all you got to do between now and when you get to the event is promote to the right people, give them a compelling reason to come see you, get in their mind, get on their agenda before you get there. You win the game before the doors open. This is what the top 10% of exhibitors are doing. Join that group if you're not already. Okay, so let's do our second poll here. I would like to learn quickly, what percentage of your total show budget do you allocate toward promoting your exhibit? What percent? 0? 1 to 5? 6 to 9? 10 to 14? 15% plus. What percent? Okay, fastest fingers. I'm at about 40% right now. I'm going to share the results, and I'm going to show you something which will help you understand why I'm asking this question here. Okay, I'll give you just another few seconds. If you haven't polled yet, please do so. All right, here we go. So 21% of you said 0. 57% of you said 1 to 5. 7% said 6 to 9. And 14% of you are in the 10 to 14% range. So the question is, how much should we be allocating to this? Well, here's one place to look. 2014 Center for Exhibition Industry Research study. The average exhibitor allocates 13% of their total show budget to promoting. Now, I learned a rule years ago that has made a major difference in my career. Here it is. Find out what the average is doing and do better than that. Okay, so if the average is doing 13%, I'm going to recommend on my next slide here, and by the way, you might jot this down, your total show investment, I'm going to recommend that you start at least 15%. So if I'm investing $25,000 in the show, then ideally, minimally, my promotion budget will be $37.50. And when I'm in a big show like OTC, I got a little booth. I'm not too crazy about my location. The audience attending that show is a perfect dead ringer match for me. I'm going to allocate even more. And I say this because I'm going to take you back and show you something. I can make a very accurate prediction off of this slide. You see all these other expense areas? Exhibit space, exhibit, transportation, show services, travel, entertainment. If you don't get enough of the right people to your booth, I'm going to accurately predict that you'll make an expensive appearance. On the other hand, if you do get enough of the right people to your booth, I'm going to accurately predict that you will make a productive, profitable investment. This is one of the greatest leverage points in the exhibit budget. Because does it matter if you have a big, pretty booth, great products, friendly, knowledgeable staff, if you guys stand around and talk to one another for 3 days? It's kind of like the saying, you know, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around, Does it make a sound, right? So, and some of you listening to me say, Jefferson, I get it, but it's my boss. Well, I tell you what I would do. I would show your boss this chart. I would show your boss those changing attendee behaviors, and I would make a strong case for getting more funding to promote your participation. Because again, the critical success factor is going to be, do you get enough of the right people to your booth? So let's make sure we have enough funding to do it right, okay? All right, number 5, let's go. We got much to cover and very little time. It's one thing to pre-market like this. Visit Competitive Edge at booth 2484. It's another thing to pre-market effectively. So what I want to walk you through here is a series of questions that you can ask and answer with your team to come up with really good content. Okay, so here's the first question. Who is our ideal visitor? Second, what goals, what projects, what problems, what challenges are they facing right now that I can help them solve? Next, what solutions are you featuring in the exhibit? How specifically do your solutions address these goals, projects, and problems? What are they going to see? What are they going to do? What are they going to learn? And what are they going to get by visiting your booth? If you'll go through these 5 questions here, you will have compelling content. Now all you have to do is deploy that content through multiple channels. Okay? So the trade show value proposition is what we're talking about here. This is what it sounds like. Concerned about, worried about, struggling with, ... problem, goal, project. Give us 5 minutes at ATC, OTC, whatever event you're at. We'll show you a solution that can help you do A, B, and C. You will see, you'll do, you will learn, and you will get by visiting our booth. And that's the essence of the value proposition. Now, notice I said concerned about, worried about, struggling with, and that's using like the pain approach. I could go another way. Interested in, curious about, want to know more about. And if you really want to have fun with marketing, do a split test. Do part of the group campaign where you use the worried about, concerned about, and do the other part, interested in, curious about, want to know more about, and see which group gets the higher response. Run a split test here based on pain and gain, right? Because people will only move to action, moving away from trying to solve a problem or seize an opportunity. So I could do a whole webinar on this one slide here, but this is how you create. Oh, this is what it sounds like. ATCE, subject line. Concerned about safety issues on your rig? Give us 5 minutes at. We'll show you the latest way to reduce the number of safety incidents, this or that. You'll see, you'll do, you'll learn, you'll get. That's the gist of it right there. That's the value prop, okay? And the ability to articulate that quickly. Because if your message is relevant, they'll notice it. If it's important, they'll engage with it. And it's our job to communicate, target the right audience, and immediately communicate relevance and importance. That's what we do with our pre-marketing. All right, so let's keep on rocking here. Number 6. Hey, 8 steps. We're 6 steps into it. Now it's time to take all the work we did, our goals, our target audience, our CPS, our exhibit interaction capacity, our budget, our lists, and our content that we've created, and put it into the system. So in selecting your marketing media, there's so much stuff that you could do, right? So here's some things to think about, what I call the 4 C's. Number 1, that message has got to be captivating, and you have to use a very consistent messaging and design theme throughout all of your delivery points. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. Next, people ask me all the time, they go, Jefferson, what is the single best media for marketing my booth or stand? My answer is always the same. There is no single best. Magic is in the mix. So you're going to use a combination of show-specific media, industry-specific media, and direct marketing media from your company. The magic is in the mix. Number 3, what you're trying to do in your pre-marketing is not tell your whole story. If you tell your whole story, why do they need to come see you? There's basically 4 messages: what you do, why they should care, who you are, where and how to find you. That's all you communicate pre. Otherwise, I don't need to come see you, right? I don't need to tell the whole story. I just need to create interest and intrigue. Then, number 4, creative frequency. You want to try to have 3 direct touches leading up to showtime. And it seems to work best when those touches come from multiple media. Okay, so we're back to our thing here. How many of these different channels can you be delivering content through? So what you want to do to bring this home and start thinking about it is there's really like 5 buckets. All those media that I just showed you on that chart could be drilled down into one of these 5 buckets. So you've got your print and your display, your trade publications and display advertising and stuff that's happening on site in terms of signage and print and direct, all of that. And then you've got your PR. The advertising you pay for, the publicity you pray for, right? And the combination of the 2. So you've got to really put together, what's new, what's newsworthy, and work that. Then you bring in your electronic media, email, internet, website, social media, mobile apps. Then I tell you where the clutter is really light today is in the mailbox. Now, obviously, in some of these international shows, you've got to really do your homework to figure out the mail distribution system and, does it work and how long would it take to get it through the system and actually have it arrive. But when you can include mail into your campaign, do it. Why? The clutter in the mailbox is really, really light. The clutter in the email box is intense, okay? And then your personal contact, having your reps out making phone calls, walking through doors, delivering show passes. And so here's what you're trying to do. A combination. You're trying to do something, 1 or 2 things in as many of these 5 channels as you can. This is multi-channel marketing. Now you've got an integrated campaign, okay? Now there's some low-cost, high-impact media that really work well when you can use them. Creating landing pages that have needs assessment and appointment tools built into them. When you do mail, personalize. Today with digital printing, the ability to completely personalize a mailer is right at your fingertips, and it's not expensive. Personalize URLs, especially when you've got a web page or a landing page, a personalized URL with a person's name in the URL. When you send email, including video links, like to short YouTube informative educational type videos. Voice messaging, not robocalling, but voice messaging is a way to reach hundreds and hundreds of people with 1 phone call. Microsites, social media, obviously. We could do a whole webinar on social media, and maybe we will as we go on, but wow, what can you be doing over there, social media? Blogs, your blogs, subject matter expert blogs. So integrate as many of these low-cost, high-impact media into your campaign to increase the response. Okay? So Craig is going to come on for a moment. SPE's got a range of ops. Craig, just give us kind of a high level of some of the stuff that is available through SPE events.
Sure. Well, first of all, one of the things that I think a lot of people don't know is that SPE, whether it's our events and the other offerings that we have, we purposely try to price our offerings below everybody else, below the commercial companies, below the market, because we want to create that value. So on the print side, you mentioned the print side. Of course, we have JPT, which has the largest worldwide circulation of any upstream publication in the world. So from a pre-show standpoint, we have JPT. At show, we have the conference programs, which you see right there on the right of JPT. So we've got the print offerings. On the web, we have obviously the websites. We have spe.org. We're now offering advertising on spe.org and OnePetro and PetroWiki. From an electronic media, we have a new member newsletter that goes out to about 84,000 every month worldwide that we now offer advertising on, and that's another low-cost option. Obviously, from a mail perspective, there are ride-alongs that can go with JPT, that can be polybagged in with JPT, that will mail cheaper than to either the Western Hemisphere, the Eastern Hemisphere, or a worldwide run that will be cheaper than anybody could do it in and of themselves. Many of our shows, hydraulic fracturing, ATCE, coil tubing, they have their own mobile apps, and there are various different opportunities on the mobile apps. And of course, as you look around the page, we've got a number of sponsorships. Most of the ones that you see there are at the show, at show sponsorships. Driving people to your booth, I think, is really important. If you look there on the right, that is a tabletop graphic that's meant to be on a round cocktail table. As you can see there, their call to action: win an Eddie Van Halen guitar, go to our booth and register to win. I think they were very successful with that. So that's something that we've just started offering not too long ago. One of the big things, too, that I would say is we try to be very creative in what we offer in terms of sponsorships and opportunities, but we're always willing to customize because people have different agendas. They have different interests. They have different objectives. And so if we don't have something that's listed on the individual event websites, a sponsorship, well, our sales team, Joan, Kirk, Jason, Jennifer, Dean, Worldwide, Nick, Sylvia, they are more than willing to help customize a package for people. If you don't see something that's out of the box, well, we can do something for you in a combination of all these media to help with a holistic pre-show marketing opportunity.
All right. Well, thank you, Craig. Great overview. And here's the best advice I could give every exhibitor listening to this webinar. See your relationship with SPE as a partnership. Clarify your exhibiting goals, clarify who your target audience is, clarify what your budget is, and pick up the phone and talk to them. They don't bite. They're actually great people. And they're almost like having an unpaid consultant to help you. When they understand your audience, your goals, your budget, they can make recommendations and really help you put together an integrated campaign that builds your brand in the marketplace and drives traffic. So make sure that you engage them. And again, that's how I would do it. Here's my goals, here's my target audience, and here's my budget, and here's kind of what I've done before. What can you guys do to help me take this to the next level? And when you work in a spirit of harmony with them to help the attendees find you, because they need to find you, right? And you got to promote. That's how it works best. So thank you so much, Craig. All right, we're running just a few minutes over, but good news is we're in the home stretch here. Step 7, you got to put all this stuff and you kind of got to put it together into a plan. So I'm showing you on the screen a very simple one-text planning model. So let's say I'm a small exhibitor. I'm in a 10 by 10. I'm investing $3,000 in floor space. Therefore, my budget should be $9,000 to $15,000 for the show. That's using the floor space times 3 to 5 rule. I need to pull at least 15% of that out to promote. My goals are, I'm trying to enhance my visibility in the marketplace. I want to drive traffic, get leads that I can follow up and convert to sales. So what would a campaign look like for me given this scenario? Number 1, the customer, prospect, suspect strategy with my sales team. Number 2, I would do an oversized, well-designed postcard. I would be mailing it to the house list and a subsection of the pre-registered attendee list when it's available, the people that match my profile. I would make sure that I wrote my exhibitor listing that's going to go online, it's going to go in the program, it's going to go in the mobile app. I would write that in a very compelling manner that doesn't sound like a mission statement, but gives people a compelling reason to come visit our booth while they're at the show. I would be promoting my participation in all of my social media channels, along with leveraging whatever SPEs do on social media. I would be running an ad in that member e-newsletter that would fit in this budget range. I would have a show logo and a booth promo on all of my content, from my website to my email signatures and all of my outgoing correspondence. On top of that, I'd have a small ad in JPT and the event conference program. Pound for pound, dollar for dollar, your best print buy is trade publications that do show focus issues and the physical event program guide. They use it to navigate the show. It's got a 1-year shelf life. So you're a bigger exhibitor. You're in a 20 by 20, 12K on floor space. You're going to be in that $36,000 to $60,000 total budget range. You're going to pull 15% minimally out. You have 2 additional goals. You got a new product to introduce, and you want to really get a position of thought leadership in the market. So you're going to do a lot of the same stuff as the small exhibitor did, but in addition to your general mailer, you're going to do a high-level invitation that's sent either by priority or FedEx, requesting an appointment, delivering a real strong value proposition, and offering some form of a reward for coming by. Because you've got a new product, you're going to do press releases and promote it. You're going to use the on-site press center. You're going to be running ads in that newsletter, the SPE member e-newsletter. You're going to have larger print ads in JPT and the event program. Because visibility is a big goal for you, sponsoring out of the badges or the lanyards or registration will be a perfect fit for you. Getting an insert, a flyer, something into the attendee badge that has a call to action and pull through is going to be a big drive for you. And because you want a thought leadership position, you're going to either do a in-booth theater and or submit content to have your technical experts do presentations at the show. And that's what a campaign would look like for you being in that group, the medium large. So what does this look like, right? And remember we said it's important to have a consistent design theme and to carry your messaging all the way through. So if we were going to go print, here would be an example. Bring it to life, stretch the experience, call to action, visit us at. This would be in trade pubs, this would be in the show conference program directory, then our mailer. We're going to make sure that the imagery and the messaging is very consistent. We're going to use oversized postcards, but we're going to use personalization. Notice the name up in the top left, and notice the personalized URL on both sides of the card. Okay, that's going to pull people to a landing page. Because we have our in-house email lists, we're going to do a 2-part emailer with a branded masthead carrying the same message and the color all the way through. Then we're going to pull people to a landing page where we can capture some information about them and have them set an appointment in the booth. And that's what an integrated campaign looks like, going through print, going through mail, going through email, going through web. Step 8, final piece of the puzzle. You don't do this just to say you did it. You do it for a few reasons. Number 1, to build your brand. Number 2, to drive qualified traffic. And number 3, to build a process that you can replicate and scale and use for every show that you do. So you've got to bring some measurement. Track what media you used, when the media was deployed relative to the show dates, how many were mailed, emailed, distributed, posted, whatever. What the cost of each media was. The number of or responses, open rates, click-throughs, however you're going to track. You're going to try to track everything. You're going to have clear call to actions in all of your media. Then you're going to kind of look back at it and go, when the show wraps, hey, let's analyze the whole campaign, what worked here, and what did we learn from this? Because each time you're going to learn some little distinctions, and how can we take this campaign and make it so we just have to tweak it and we can use it for other shows on our calendar. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've run a few minutes over. Thank you for hanging with me. I am going to open the queue right now for questions. And while I do, Craig, any kind of closing thoughts or comments from SPE?
Well, once again, I just would thank everybody for being here. We would certainly like to have your input on what you thought of today's webinar. So when you do get that email following this, if you could give us some feedback and your thoughts on it, we would greatly appreciate it. And again, finally, anything that we can do to help, our sales team can do to help with pre-show planning, marketing, ideas, staying within budgets, we're more than happy to do that. We'd love to talk to you about what fits and what works for you.
All right, thanks, Craig. I've got a few questions that have come in. The first question is, how far in advance of an event should we begin our marketing campaign? And my answer to that question is, the media has a big hand in this. So when you're doing print campaign, you want to get about 6 months out and then start showing up in the trade publications, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you're doing more direct marketing using mail, email, social media, telephone, you want to move into 45-day window, 45 days out, and then maybe have 3 touches at 45, 25, and 10 days prior. Okay, I got another question in here. There's, you know, being a small business, you know, and having so much workload, how do I go about? I'm a one-person marketing department. How would I go about doing all this stuff? Well, here's the thing. You don't have to do it all, but you do have to do something. So I would start, the place I would start is what's under my control internally would be the customer, prospect, suspect, getting my sales team to do the work for me. That way you're playing the role of an orchestrator, you know, not necessarily a doer, just driving the sales team 8 weeks out to build that customer, prospect, suspect list. And then ask them to have 3 contacts and ask the sales manager to track the number of appointments and the number of verbal commitments, and maybe getting a contest. And then I would start folding in, I would look at what show opportunities, free and paid, that I can leverage that aren't going to take a lot of time. Many shows SPE has the Exhibitor email program, the invite a customer Exhibitor invite type program. Use that. It's free. It's easy. It's fast, right? And then I would start looking at, you know, what other, like really expanding my listing. I want to make sure my Exhibitor listing that shows up on the navigation, you know, the find the booth thing at the show, the, what do you call that, the locator, the mobile app in the directory. I want to make sure that listing, when somebody reads it, it compels them to want to come to my booth, right? And then I would start bringing into it things like a targeted postcard mailer. You can get custom postcards printed, mailed out the door for a little over $1 a card. And so, you know, start with internally, leverage your sales team, use all of SPE's free Exhibitor marketing ops, and then start adding as much as you can. I've got a question about giveaways. What's my thought on giveaways? You know, if you just set a bowl of keychains in your booth and you think that's going to make a difference, it's not. You know, you've got pens that you're giving away. I mean, who really needs another cheap pen, right? People don't know. The best use of giveaways is to tie them into a targeted campaign and make them a clear, visible reward for showing up at your booth. If you use giveaways to attract people out of the aisles, you're using a non-selective approach to your giveaways. You'll often give away a lot of stuff, but the question is, who are you giving it away to, and is it making any difference? On the idea of giveaways, make it useful and make it unique, right? It's useful, it's unique, and ideally have it tie into some form of a message. Like when I exhibit, one of my messages, success is measured by the companies you keep. My giveaway is a branded tape measure with a calculator. Perfect tie-in. Not only can I give it to them and they take it home, but it's got a calculator in it that I have them use during the interaction in the booth. So on giveaways. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I want to thank everybody for logging in and hanging around, you know, a few minutes past the time for our Q&A. Make sure that you've viewed the first 2 webinars if you haven't. Make sure you show up for the next 3 because we're getting deeper and deeper in each webinar. And make sure that with the Ask the Trade Show Expert, that's a free resource at any time you got questions. Go there, type them in, we respond. And make sure that you use the content on the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. So with that, I want to thank you for logging in, and I'll toss it back to Craig for any closing comments from SPE.
No, once again, just thank you very much for attending today. Our next webinar is going to be in 2 weeks. I would love to ask that if you like this, if you like the last two, that you would share it with your colleagues and anybody that you think would be helpful. It would be helpful for, and we look forward to serving you any way we can. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for being a client of SPE, and we look forward to seeing you at upcoming trade show. Thank you.
All right, this concludes the third SPE Exhibitor webinar. Thanks for logging in, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next webinar.